We are now in study session 7, Style, Tone and Irony in Prose Fiction. Introduction. Among the elements which make up a prose fiction text are style, tone and irony. In fact, they are effective weapons in the hands of a fiction writer to pass his messages across and make his or her story vivid, convincing, credible, comprehensive, didactic, and entertaining. In this study session, we will dwell on the features, types, functions, and employment of style, tone, and irony in prose fiction. When you have studied this session, you should be able to analyze the style employed in a prose fiction, point out the tone of any prose fiction, and critique the employment of irony in any prose fiction. We now take a look at style. Style is a manner of linguistic expression in prose or verse. It is how a speaker or writer says whatever it is that he says. The style of a work or writing may be analyzed in terms of its diction or choice of words, its sentence structure and syntax, the density and types of its figurative language, the patterns of its rhythm, component sounds and other formal features, and its rhetorical aims and devices. In traditional theories of rhetoric, styles were classified into 3 main levels: the high, the middle, the high, also known as grand, the middle, also known as mean, and the low, also known as the base. The doctrine of decorum required that the level of style in a work be appropriate to the speaker, the occasion, and the dignity of its literary genre. Northrop Frye introduced a variant of this long persistent theory of stylistic levels in literature by making a basic differentiation between the demotic style and the hieratic style. Frye then proceeded to distinguish a high, middle, and low level in each of these classes. Another distinction made with increasing frequency in discussing prose style is that between parataxis and hypostasis. A paratactic style is one in which the members within a sentence or else a sequence of complete sentences are put one after the other without any expression of their connection or relations except the non-committal connective. And Hemingway's style is characteristically paratactic. The members in this sentence from "the sun also rises" are joined merely by the conjunction by "and." It was dim and dark, and the pillars went high up, and there were people praying, and it smelt of incense, and there were some wonderful big buildings. A hypotactic style is one in which the temporal, logical, and syntactic relations between members and sentences are expressed by words such as when, then, because, therefore, or by phrases such as in order to, as a result, or by the use of subordinate phrases and clauses. The way things are said, their style and tone matters a lot. It is important to note that the way things are said, their style and tone matters a lot. The way things are phrased and expressed can affect the meaning words convey, and the tone of voice can decidedly alter the message. Nice shirt can mean you love it or you hate it, depending on whether you say it enthusiastically about a friend's birthday present or mortar bitterly about a ragged t-shirt with an offensive slogan on the back. The same is true for a work of fiction. A work's style is important because it is interesting and enjoyable to read a distinctive style of writing, and because style helps shape tone, the tone of voice that affects how we take what is being said, whether what the narrator and characters say should be taken straightforwardly or with a grain of salt, or the opposite way from which it is stated. This study session focuses on some of the key elements that contribute to style and tone, and on the specific tone of irony to help you be more alert to subtleties of fine writings as you listen to or read a work of literature. As you read a prose text the first time, you'll probably focus more on what's happening and why than on the way it's said. Most writers listen more intently for style on a second reading, so read it a second time, paying close attention to the way things are phrased and expressed, to word choice, for example, and to the way sentences are constructed. Think about whether the style seems to you appropriate and effective in conveying what happens to the central character and the feelings she experiences, for example, on hearing that her husband has died. In everyday speech, style is used in at least two important ways. That's a stylish suit, and that's their style of doing things. Both uses apply when discussing literature, and they usually are closely related. Style, when applied to writing, is a manner in which a writer uses words, constructs sentences, incorporates non-literal expressions, and handles rhythm, timing, and tone, all resulting in the effectiveness and individuality of a writer's work. Let us now take a look at style as effectiveness of expression. If your teacher asks you to discuss the style of a work, he or she wants you to describe how or explain why the words, sentences, and imaginative comparisons are effective in terms of what is being created. Is it done with style? That is, with proper care and in ways appropriate to the content and purpose of the work. Such a question requires that you listen actively and attentively for at least three features: words, sentences, and imaginative comparisons. Effectiveness always depends on appropriateness to a specific context. In expository writing, that means the appropriateness of the style to the writing's purpose, a formal style for a business letter or a research paper, an informal style for a personal letter or an essay describing your first day at college. We now take a look at word choice or diction. Central to style is an author's diction. Diction, in a narrow sense, means word choice, but in a broader sense, it refers to the overall character of language used in writing or speech and includes vocabulary and syntax. A writer can employ any of several types of diction, and the kind that predominates defines one aspect of a work's style. The words selected by a published author or by you as a student writer affects the way the work articulates the subject as well as the sound, rhythm, and feel of the writing. For instance, the formal diction in Kate Chopping's The Story of an Hour seems to fit the strong, reserved character of Mrs. Mallard and the tight, careful plotting that sets up the surprise ending. Here are some other types of diction, though such a list can never be complete and exhaustive. Simple words. When Miss Emily Grayson died, our whole town went to her funeral. Except for the names, all the words are everyday words, as is the language the narrator uses for objective description. She was sick for a long time, When we saw her again, her hair was cut short, making her look like a girl. The diction in the first sentence of Alice Walker's everyday use is similar. I will wait for her in the yard, which Maggie and I made so clean and wavy yesterday afternoon. Another type of diction is complex words. But garages and cotton gins are encroached and obliterated even the august names of that neighborhood. When the narrator, obviously educated and formal, wants to convey an attitude towards something carefully and precisely, he turns to words derived from Latin or French, rather than to the simpler Anglo equivalents. New people and modern ways don't age in. They encroach where they don't belong. They don't just wipe away the worthy names. They obliterate names that were august. Another type of diction is abstract words. You just don't understand your heritage. Make something of yourself. A new day from everyday use. These vague, empty pattern words of advice help bring out the irony that it is she, not her mother or sister, who needs deeper understanding. Likewise, on the rare occasions when something opens within and the music enters, what we mainly hear or hear corroborated are personal, private, vanishing evocations, according to James Baldwin's Sonny's Blues. Another type of diction is colloquialism. Don't you know it's Sunday all day? From where are you going? Where have you been? The slurred syllables are characteristic of speech, not written prose. The casual way an old friend expresses himself helps us know more of what his character is like. Two other examples are I'm an open-minded kind of guy, loving early, and I ain't learning nothing in school, Sonny's Blues. Another type of diction is slang. A sweet, broad, soft-looking can. Most of us wouldn't use the word can in a school paper, but it fits perfectly the breezy personality Sammy wants to project. Another example is the narrator's use of a slang term for heroine in Sonny's Blues, the first time Sonny had ever had horse. Another type of diction is dignified, sophisticated terminology. A week later, the mayor wrote her himself, offering to call or to send his car for her, and received in reply a note on paper of an archaic shape in a thin, flowing calligraphy in faded ink, to the effect that she no longer went out at all. A rose for Emily. The words convey the polite, formal, old-fashioned way the mayor and Miss Emily treat each other in what is a very delicate situation. Another type of diction is technical terms. The milkinate clabber, thickly cuddled and sour by now, everyday use. The word is precise and informs us that a churn whose top D takes away as a keepsake is one still being used in the household. Also, behind jalousies, closed upon the sun of Sunday afternoon, a rose for Emily. We will now take a look at tone. This is a very vague critical term, usually designating the mood or atmosphere of a work. However, in some restricted uses, it refers to the author's attitude to the reader. When you listen to a story, it is important to pay attention to its tone, the tone of voice it projects, the attitude or stance it takes toward the characters and actions. Tone is a significant aspect of style and of communication generally. It can add to, modify, or even invert the meaning of the words expressed. If someone says, "Please close the door behind you," it makes a big difference if the words are spoken as a simple reminder or as an angry demand. Either way, the tone adds a lot that the words themselves don't say. In the former case, tone conveys respect, acceptance, and confidence. In the latter, rebuke, rejection, and separation. When we talk, our own tone is conveyed by the inflections on our voice. For a writer, spoken inflections obviously are not available, so tone must usually be indicated through style. A story can convey a wide variety of attitudes towards characters and events. Let us now take a look at irony. One of the more complex tones is irony, a way of expression in which the writer or speaker creates a discrepancy or incongruity between what is and what seems to be. Dealing with irony requires active reading because the words don't mean what they literally say. There, the writer has to be active in recognizing and processing the difference between what is said and what is meant. Irony appears in a variety of forms. The sections that follow describe the most important types of irony and indicate what to listen for to discern each type. First is verbal irony. In verbal irony, what is said is the opposite of what is meant, such as "beautiful day" when the weather is miserable. The name Arnold Friend in "Where Are You Going? Where Have You Been?" is an example for Arnold as anything but a friend to Connie. You need to recognize the incongruity between the name and the person. Verbal irony requires listening signals that what is said is not to be taken in a straightforward way. Exaggerated and contradictory word choice, for example, or the sheer absurdity of what is said, or the cutting tone with which a word or phrase seems intended to be spoken. Dramatic irony. Dramatic irony arises when a character says or does something that the reader audience realizes has a meaning opposite to what the character intends. To detect dramatic irony, watch for occasions when characters don't realize the full implications of what they are saying, of what happens to them, and when you see more about it than they do. A famous example is the Greek tragedy Oedipus Rex, in which an oracle informs Oedipus that he will murder his father and marry his mother. As the story proceeds, and we learn that Oedipus has indeed killed a man and has married a woman considerably older than him, we begin to realize, before he and the other characters do, that what the oracle declared is true. Much later, the power of the play comes from our growing horror as we watch Oedipus and his mother grasp what we already know, and our awareness that we can do nothing to change the outcome. Similarly, the last line of "the story an hour" depends on dramatic irony. We know that Mrs. Mallard wasn't killed by joy at seeing her husband alive and well, but died from shock and disappointment instead. Also, be alert for the possibility of dramatic irony when a work of fiction uses an unreliable narrator, in cases where you are aware of more than the narrator is or the characters are. Finally, we take a look at situational irony. In a situational irony, a result or situation turns out very differently from what was expected or hoped for. To notice situational irony, look for reversals when something turns around from what it used to be, or what was expected, or what was desired. In many cases, such a reversal has ironic implications. In everyday use, as Dee insists on being given the quilts her mother and grandmother made, Mama recalls how she had offered Dee a quilt when she went away to college. Then she had told me they were old-fashioned, out of style. Irony arises out of the change in Dee's attitude toward her heritage. And it's ironic when Dee accuses Mama of not appreciating her heritage when the situation has made it clear that it's Dee who lacks such understanding. Unlike dramatic irony in situational irony, the reader does not necessarily know more than the characters and may be as surprised by what happens as the characters are. In this study session, we identified style, tone, and irony as some of the elements that make up a prose fiction text. We also argued that they are effective weapons in the hands of a fiction writer to pass his or her messages across and make his or her story vivid, convincing, credible, comprehensive, didactic, and entertaining. We also dwelt on the features, types, and functions of style, tone, and irony in prose fiction. We drew illuminative examples from prose text to illustrate the place of style